Welcome to my YouTube channel, Wild Shadow Tales. She could not afford a liar. Her husband actually laughed at that in open court. And then the judge said four words that quietly shattered everything he believed about this case.
Kesha Brightwell stood at the family court table, holding a plain manila folder that, unknown to anyone in that room, contained something far more powerful than her husband's entire legal defense team combined. Across from her, Malcolm Brightwell leaned back like he already owned the outcome. Corporate attorney, expensive suit, even more expensive lawyer beside him at $850 an hour. Calmly flipping through neatly tabbed documents like this was routine work. And then there was Kesha, alone, representing herself. To Malcolm, it wasn't just a disadvantage. It was a punchline. He had no idea that the woman he thought he had financially erased had spent the last 3 years quietly building something he couldn't buy, intimidate, or legally untangle. Whatever the judge was about to say next didn't just threaten his confidence. It started undoing his entire future. Before we go further, if you're drawn to stories where justice flips the table on arrogance, subscribe and stay with us. And tell me where you're watching from. It's always interesting how far these kinds of stories travel. Now back to court. The room carried that stale courtroom silence, old wood polish, recycled air, and tension that felt almost physical. Sunlight cut through tall windows in thin, sharp lines, landing across polished benches like silent warning signs. Kesha sat at the respondent's table, posture controlled, a single blue pen resting on top of her folder. Her navy blazer had clearly seen better years, but it was clean, pressed, deliberate. Her hair pulled back neatly. Minimal jewelry, just small gold studs. Nothing unnecessary. Nothing left to prove. Across the aisle, Malcolm looked completely at ease. One leg crossed over the other, a faint smirk on his face. His suit alone could have paid months of someone else's rent. Beside him, Gregory Whitmore, the kind of lawyer who never raised his voice because he never needed to sorted documents like the outcome was already written. Then the bailiff called the court to order. All rise. The Honorable Judge Patricia Okonkwo presiding. The entire room stood. Judge Okonkwo entered without ceremony, robe flowing, expression unreadable. Late 50s, sharp gaze, the kind of judge who had long stopped being impressed by polished arguments or emotional performances. Be seated, she said simply. Everyone sat. Kesha adjusted her posture slightly. Malcolm leaned toward his lawyer and whispered something under his breath, just loud enough. This won't take long. A faint smile tugged at Gregory's mouth. The judge opened the file. Case number 47-2024, FC. Brightwell versus Brightwell. Petition for dissolution of marriage, custody, and division of marital assets. Her eyes lifted. Counselor Whitmore, you represent Mr. Brightwell? Yes, Your Honor. And Mrs. Brightwell, you are self-represented? Kesha stood. Yes, Your Honor. I am proceeding pro se. Malcolm exhaled through his nose, amused. Gregory subtly shook his head, almost pitying the situation. The judge didn't react. She just read. Then came the first motion summary. Full custody request, exclusive marital home, significant spousal support. Gregory rose smoothly, voice practiced. My client has been the primary financial provider. Mrs. Brightwell left the marital residence without notice and has demonstrated no stable income or consistent caregiving structure. Kesha didn't move. Not a word. Not a reaction. Malcolm leaned forward slightly, enjoying it. Then, without warning, he spoke. Your Honor, if I may. Gregory reached for him, but it was too late. The judge looked up slowly. You have counsel, Mr. Brightwell. I just think it's obvious. Malcolm continued anyway. She's here alone. No lawyer. No structure. This is going to be quick. A ripple moved through the room. The judge's expression didn't change, but something in the air did. Sit down, she said. He did, slowly, still smiling. But the smile didn't last long, because when Kesha finally spoke, it wasn't emotional. It wasn't defensive. It was precise. I don't dispute my husband's income history. He supported the household financially. But I supported everything else. Our children, our home, and his career for 12 years. She paused just long enough for the room to settle. I paused my education so he could finish law school. I worked 2 jobs during his bar preparation, and I agreed to step back when his career required it. Malcolm shifted in his seat. Then she continued. After separation, he froze our accounts, changed our locks, and informed our children I had abandoned them. I've been rebuilding since then. A small pause. I may not have counsel, Your Honor, but I have documentation. And I have facts. That's when Malcolm laughed. Out loud. Sharp. Dismissive. Almost entertained by her attempt. The sound echoed, too, clearly in the room. The judge turned her head slowly. Is something amusing, Mr. Brightwell? He leaned back. My wife is presenting herself as a victim. The reality is she walked away voluntarily. I protected our assets. She's standing here without representation, trying to claim what she didn't earn. Sit down, the judge said again. This time colder. But Malcolm kept going anyway. She has no income, no stability, and no ability to provide for our children. Silence dropped instantly. Heavy. Complete. The judge set her pen down, removed her glasses, folded them carefully, and when she spoke again, her voice had changed. Counselor Whitmore, she said without looking away, control your client. Now. Gregory stood immediately. It won't happen again, Your Honor. It better not. Then the judge turned to Kesha. Mrs. Brightwell, proof of employment? Kesha opened her folder and walked forward. What she handed over next didn't just shift the case. It started breaking Malcolm's confidence in real time, because the judge's eyes didn't just read the documents. They lingered, just a little too long. And for the first time since the hearing began, the courtroom didn't feel like it belonged to Malcolm anymore. Gregory didn't answer immediately. That silence said everything. Then he finally spoke, carefully, like he was choosing each word to avoid triggering something worse. You don't wait for them to find it. You don't get clever. You disclose it first. Malcolm let out a short, humorless laugh. And just hand them the rope I hang myself with. Gregory's eyes hardened. No, you're already standing on the edge of the cliff. I'm trying to keep you from jumping. The room went quiet again. 42 floors up, the city outside looked calm, almost mocking in its indifference. Traffic moved. People lived their normal lives. Meanwhile, inside that office, Malcolm Brightwell was watching his entire reality start to fracture in real time. He rubbed his face again, slower this time. This was supposed to be simple, he muttered. She was supposed to just accept the settlement and move on. Gregory gave him a cold look. That was your first mistake, assuming she was still the same person you walked away from. That sentence hit harder than Malcolm expected, because in his mind, Kesha had always been the version he left behind. Quiet, contained, predictable. Someone who survived through him, not without him. But that woman in court wasn't her. Gregory tapped the documents again. And there's something else you missed. Malcolm looked up sharply. Now what? Gregory hesitated for the first time. The timing of everything. What about it? She didn't just rebuild her life, Gregory said slowly. She rebuilt it around you. A pause. Malcolm frowned. What does that even mean? Gregory leaned forward. Your wife didn't randomly end up at Harmon and Reed. The words landed heavier this time. She targeted it. A flicker of confusion crossed Malcolm's face. That's not possible. Gregory slid a printed sheet across the desk. Judge Okonkwo's Old Law School Network. Family Court Rotation Records. Guest lectures. Professional associations. Kesha didn't just study law, Malcolm. She studied the system she knew you'd eventually stand in front of. Malcolm stared at the paper, then shook his head slowly. No. She didn't have the time or resources for that. Gregory gave a dry laugh. She had 3 years. And unlike you, she wasn't distracted. That word again. Distracted. It wasn't just the case anymore. It was starting to feel like something bigger. Malcolm stood up abruptly and turned away from the desk. So what are you saying? That she planned this? Gregory didn't answer immediately, and that hesitation said more than a yes ever could. Then, a knock at the office door. Both men turned. Gregory frowned. I'm not expecting anyone. Another knock. Firm. Controlled. He opened it. A courier stood there, holding a sealed courthouse envelope. "Delivery from Mr. Whitmore," the man said. Gregory took it slowly. The moment he saw the stamp on the seal, his expression changed. "Court issued. Immediate filing. Urgent notice." He closed the door and turned back inside. "This just came in," he said quietly. Malcolm stepped forward. "What is it?" Gregory didn't answer right away. He broke the seal. "Read once, then again." And for the first time since this case started, the confident attorney looked genuinely unsettled. "What?" Malcolm pressed. "What is it?" Gregory finally spoke, voice lower now. "It's a motion to amend financial disclosure." Malcolm blinked. "So? That's normal." Gregory looked up at him. "It's not from us." A pause. "It's from your wife's attorney." The air shifted instantly. Malcolm's voice tightened. "On what grounds?" Gregory scanned the page again, then stopped. His eyes narrowed slightly. Newly discovered financial evidence. Malcolm felt something cold crawl up his spine. "That's not possible," he said again, but weaker this time. Gregory turned the paper so Malcolm could see the highlighted line. And there it was. Not just a request. A claim. Backed. Filed. Official. Malcolm's eyes tracked the words slowly, like his brain was refusing to process them. Then Gregory added quietly, "She's alleging undisclosed marital assets. A beat. And she's asking the court to freeze them." The silence that followed wasn't just heavy. It was suffocating. Malcolm's mouth went dry. That's a bluff," he said, but it didn't sound like he believed it anymore. Gregory exhaled. "I've seen a lot of divorce cases, Malcolm." He tapped the document once. "This doesn't read like a bluff." Back at the courthouse that same afternoon, Kesha sat in her small apartment, scrolling through her laptop. Calm, focused, not rushing. On her screen, financial summaries, account structures, transaction trails. Everything neatly aligned. Her phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. "You're playing a dangerous game." She read it once, then locked the screen without reacting. Another notification came in seconds later. This time, her expression finally changed, just slightly. Not fear, recognition. She leaned back in her chair and whispered to herself, "So he found it." Then she stood up, walked to the window, and looked out at the city skyline. Somewhere in that skyline, Malcolm was finally realizing something she had understood long before the first court hearing ever began. This was never going to be a simple divorce. It was a long-delayed reveal, and the part he feared most hadn't even started yet. She glanced at the screen. Unknown number. For a moment, she almost ignored it. Then she answered, "Hello." A pause on the line, just enough to feel intentional. Then a voice, measured, controlled, and unmistakably male. "You're going too far, Kesha." She didn't react immediately, just kept her eyes on the road. "I think you have the wrong number," she said calmly. A soft exhale came through the speaker. "No, I don't." That silence between them shifted, no longer casual, no longer accidental. It had weight now. Kesha's grip tightened slightly on the steering wheel. "Then say what you need to say," she replied. A faint, humorless laugh. "You're opening doors that were meant to stay closed." Her expression finally changed, but only subtly. Recognition, not fear. "Those doors were already open," she said. "You just didn't notice." A pause. Then the line went dead. No warning. No goodbye. Just silence. Kesha looked at the phone for a second longer than necessary, then placed it face down on the passenger seat and continued driving. Not faster, not slower, just steady. Meanwhile, across the city, Malcolm Brightwell sat alone in the same upscale bar, the second glass of bourbon untouched in front of him. The noise around him felt distant now. Laughter, glass clinking, soft music that used to blend into background comfort, but now felt irritatingly alive. His phone lit up again. Gregory. He answered immediately. "Tell me it's done," Malcolm said before the lawyer could speak. A pause. "It's filed," Gregory replied. "Amended disclosure. On record." We got ahead of it, barely. Malcolm exhaled, leaning back. "So, it's over?" Another pause. Longer this time. "No," Gregory said flatly. "It's the beginning of containment, not resolution." That word again. Containment. Like something already leaking, Malcolm rubbed his forehead. What else? Gregory's voice lowered. Your wife's team filed preliminary forensic requests this afternoon. Malcolm froze slightly. And, and they're not just looking at divorce assets anymore. That landed wrong. Malcolm sat forward. What does that mean? Gregory didn't answer immediately. When he did, his tone had shifted. Less professional, more warning. It means they think there's something bigger. A beat, possibly financial misconduct. The words didn't fully register at first. Then they did. Malcolm's throat tightened. That's impossible. Gregory's response came instantly. No, it's just improving. A sharper pause, which is exactly why it's dangerous. Back at Harmon and Reed, Kesha stood alone in her office for a moment, city lights reflecting off the glass walls. The case files were already growing, expanding, multiplying. What had started as divorce proceedings now felt less like separation and more like exposure. Her phone buzzed again. This time, text message. From Gregory Whitmore. Asterisk, we need to talk. Off record. Asterisk, she stared at it for a moment. Then replied, only. Asterisk, there's nothing off record anymore. Asterisk, and set the phone down. That night, Malcolm didn't go home. Not because he didn't want to, but because home no longer felt like a place. It felt like a reminder. Instead, he sat in his car again, engine off, staring at his reflection in the rearview mirror. The man looking back didn't look like someone in control. He looked like someone realizing, too late, that control had never been his to begin with. His phone buzzed once more. A notification from an unknown email. No subject line, just an attachment. He hesitated, then opened it. A single document loaded. A financial summary, but not his official one. Not the one he filed. This one was different, detailed, structured, and already partially highlighted. Malcolm's breathing slowed, because halfway down the page were entries he recognized. Entries he had never disclosed. A cold realization started forming in his chest. Someone had already started building the case against him, and they weren't guessing anymore. They were confirming. Across town, Kesha finally arrived home. She didn't turn on all the lights. Just the kitchen. Just enough. She set her keys down, removed her blazer, and for the first time that day, allowed herself a long breath. Not relief. Not victory. Just awareness. Her phone lit up one more time. A new message. Unknown sender. Short. Direct. Asterisk, you're not the only one who knows how to prepare. Asterisk, Kesha read it once. Then locked the screen. And quietly said to herself, good. Because now it wasn't just a case. It was a system. And systems, once exposed, don't go back to sleep. Doreen didn't look up when she said it. That alone changed the energy in the room. There's more. Victoria stopped typing. Marcus slowly leaned back in his chair. Even Kesha felt it. This wasn't just another document drop anymore. This was the point where cases stopped being about divorce and started becoming something heavier. Go on, Marcus said quietly. Doreen slid a second folder forward, thinner but clearly more sensitive. I ran a deeper trace on the shell company. Kesha's eyes narrowed slightly. And Doreen finally looked up. And it isn't just a pass-through account. A pause. It's been used to route funds connected to client settlements. The words didn't land immediately. Then they did. Victoria straightened. You're saying what I think you're saying? Doreen nodded once. I'm saying some of the money moving through that structure isn't just marital assets. Silence. Marcus's voice dropped. Client money? Doreen didn't hesitate. Potentially misallocated settlement funds. Trust-held payments. Fees that should have been held in escrow and weren't. For a moment, no one spoke. Because that wasn't divorce territory anymore. That was disciplinary. Ethics board. Bar association. Criminal exposure. Kesha felt something cold settle in her chest. Not fear exactly, but clarity. This escalated fast, she said quietly. Victoria shut her laptop. No, she corrected. This escalated a long time ago. We're just seeing it now. Marcus stood slowly, already shifting into decision mode. We filed the emergency motion tonight. Full disclosure. Asset concealment. And we attach this as supporting evidence. He looked at Kesha. And we prepare for impact. Kesha didn't ask what kind. She already knew. Across the city, Malcolm Brightwell sat in his office, staring at the same skyline that no longer felt like his. His phone was on the desk. Silent. Too silent. Then it lit up. Gregory. Malcolm answered immediately. Tell me this is under control. A long pause on the other end. Then Gregory's voice, lower than usual. It's not. Malcolm stood up. What does that mean? Gregory exhaled. It means your wife's team didn't stop at the amended disclosure. A beat. They kept digging. Malcolm's grip tightened around the phone. And another pause. Longer this time. Then the sentence that changed everything, that they've traced the shell company to potential client funds. The room seemed to tilt slightly. Malcolm blinked. No, he said immediately. That's not possible. Gregory didn't respond right away, which was worse than denial. Then, it's possible, he said carefully. And if they prove intent, this stops being a family court matter. Malcolm's voice rose. Gregory, no. I never. This was just asset protection. Gregory cut him off, sharply. That's not how a judge will interpret it. Silence slammed into the line. Then Gregory added, slower now. You need to understand something. This isn't about Kesha anymore. Malcolm frowned. What are you talking about? Gregory's voice dropped. This is about whether you've been financially honest with clients. If even part of this holds, you're looking at disciplinary proceedings. That word hit harder than anything before it. Disciplinary. Malcolm sank into his chair. You're overreacting. Gregory's response was immediate. I wish I was. A pause. Then, quieter. They're filing an emergency motion tonight. Malcolm's head snapped up. What? Gregory continued. And they're asking for a full forensic audit of everything you've touched financially in the last 2 years. Malcolm's breath shortened. No. This is divorce court. It doesn't work like that. Gregory's voice hardened. It does when a judge suspects concealment and bad faith. A beat. And you gave them both. That night, Kesha stood alone in the conference room, long after everyone had left. The city lights pressed against the glass walls like silent witnesses. On the table in front of her, folders, charts, timelines. A map of everything Malcolm had tried to hide. But something about it didn't feel like victory yet. It felt like momentum, like something already too far in motion to stop. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number again. She didn't answer this time, just watched it stop ringing. Then another message came in. This one wasn't a warning. It was a preview. Asterisk, you should have stopped when you had the chance. Asterisk, Kesha stared at it for a long moment, then quietly said to the empty room, I didn't start this, and turned off the lights. By the time Monday morning arrived, the courthouse wasn't just a courtroom anymore. It was a pressure point, and both sides knew it, because what was about to be revealed next was no longer about who got what in a divorce. It was about who had been lying longer, and who was about to lose everything when the truth finally stopped negotiating. Judge Okonkwo didn't touch the documents immediately. She just looked at them. That silence, longer than necessary, was the kind that made people shift uncomfortably in their seats. Then she finally flipped the first page. Slowly, deliberately. Every page after that seemed to pull a little more heat out of the room. Malcolm stood frozen now, not speaking, not moving. Like if he stayed still enough, the reality unfolding in front of him might pause too. Gregory, on the other hand, was no longer trying to argue. He was calculating damage. Across the aisle, Kesha didn't react outwardly, but something in her posture had changed. Less tension, more inevitability. Like the case had crossed a line where emotions no longer mattered, only outcomes. The judge set the papers down and looked up. Counselor Harmon, she said evenly, is there anything in this record that has been misrepresented or fabricated? Marcus didn't hesitate. No, Your Honor. Another pause. The judge turned slightly toward Gregory. Counselor Whitmore, do you dispute the authenticity of these records? Gregory swallowed once before answering. No, Your Honor. We do not dispute the documents. That was the moment the air changed, because denial was gone. Now it was just interpretation. Judge Okonkwo leaned back slightly, fingers resting together. Then I want to understand something very clearly, she said. Her eyes shifted to Malcolm. Mr. Brightwell didn't accidentally forget $470,000 in assets. A beat. He created a structure to move them. Malcolm finally spoke, voice tight. Your Honor, I never intended— Stop, she said instantly. Not loud, but absolute. The word hit harder than a shout. He stopped. The judge continued, tone measured but colder now. Intent will be determined by this court based on evidence, not statements made under pressure. She glanced down at the files again, and the evidence suggests a sustained pattern of concealment, not oversight. Gregory tried again carefully. Your Honor, even if there were accounting errors, there were no errors. Marcus cut in calmly. Every head turned slightly. Marcus stepped forward one pace. This wasn't disorganization. It was structure. Multiple accounts, layered transfers, timing aligned with discovery deadlines and financial disclosures. He placed another document on the table, and the IP logs confirmed direct access from Mr. Brightwell's devices. A murmur moved through the courtroom. The judge raised her hand slightly. Silence returned instantly. She looked at Gregory. Counselor Whitmore, I want you to understand something about how this court interprets patterns. Gregory nodded once, stiff. The judge continued. When concealment aligns perfectly with legal proceedings, it stops being financial behavior. A pause. It becomes intent to deceive the court. That word landed heavily. Deceive. Malcolm's breathing changed slightly. Faster now. Shallower. For the first time, his confidence didn't just look shaken. It looked gone. Gregory leaned in quickly. Your Honor, we request a brief recess to— Denied, she said again. Sharper this time. You will not delay this court while evidence accumulates against your client in real time. She turned pages again, then stopped. Now, she said, there is another matter raised in this filing. She looked up. Billing irregularities. Malcolm's head lifted sharply. That was new. Even Gregory hadn't expected that to be the focus yet. Judge Okonkwo continued. Allegations that Mr. Brightwell inflated billable hours across multiple client accounts. A pause. Counselor Harmon explained. Marcus didn't hesitate. We have documentation indicating approximately $90,000 in overbilled time entries across 4 major clients over a 2-year period. The entries do not align with court appearances, filings, or recorded case activity. The room tightened again. Different charge now. Different weight. Not just divorce anymore. Professional integrity. The judge turned slightly. Mr. Brightwell, she said, did you authorize inaccurate billing entries? Malcolm stood abruptly. No, Your Honor, I would never— Sit down, she said immediately. He stopped mid-motion. Saturday. Hard. Gregory exhaled slowly through his nose, then stood. Your Honor, we need time to investigate these claims thoroughly before— You had time, she interrupted. You had time before court. You had time after the first filing. You had time when the amended disclosure was submitted. A pause. You're not being ambushed, Counselor Whitmore. You are being confronted with your client's records. Silence again. The judge leaned forward slightly. And I want to be very clear about something. Her voice lowered just a fraction. If these billing allegations are substantiated, this court will refer this matter to the State Bar without hesitation. That line didn't echo. It landed and stayed. Malcolm's mother in the gallery shifted uncomfortably, clutching her purse tighter. One of his law partners looked down, avoiding eye contact entirely. Across the room, Kesha finally moved, just slightly, folding her hands together on the table. Not satisfaction. Focus. The judge continued. Given the seriousness of the financial concealment and now potential professional misconduct, this court is issuing an immediate order. She paused. Temporary freeze on all contested marital assets, pending full forensic review. Gregory closed his eyes briefly, and, the judge added, an expedited referral to a court-appointed forensic examiner independent of both parties' firms. Malcolm finally spoke again, voice breaking slightly. Your Honor, this is destroying my career over allegations. The judge looked directly at him. Your career is not being destroyed, Mr. Brightwell. A pause. It is being examined. That distinction was worse, because it removed drama and replaced it with process. She picked up her gavel. This court is adjourned until further review. Then she stopped. One last look at Malcolm. One more thing. He froze. If even half of what is in this record is proven accurate, you did not misunderstand the law. A pause. You used it. The gavel struck. Sharp. Final. And this time, no one in the room moved for a second after it ended. Because everyone understood the same thing at the same time. This wasn't a divorce anymore. It was a collapse in slow motion. And for Malcolm Brightwell, the worst part wasn't what he had already lost. It was what was still coming. Monday morning arrived cold and clear. The kind of morning that felt too calm for what it was about to witness. By 8:15 a.m., the courthouse steps were already crowded again. Reporters, cameras, curious onlookers drawn by the same story that had now escaped the walls of the courtroom and taken on a life of its own. Inside, the atmosphere was different. Heavier. Less like a hearing. More like a verdict waiting to happen. Kesha sat at counsel table, composed on the outside, but the stillness wasn't comfort. It was discipline. The kind you build when you know emotions won't help you anymore. Across the aisle, Malcolm Brightwell looked like a man running out of places to put his thoughts. No smirk, no confidence, just fatigue and something worse underneath it. Uncertainty that had finally stopped pretending to be control. Gregory Whitmore sat beside him, flipping through documents one last time, not because anything new would appear, but because lawyers often did that when the outcome was already slipping away. The bailiff called the room to order. All rise. Judge Okonkwo entered, and immediately, everyone felt it. This wasn't going to be procedural. This was final stage judgment. She sat, opened the file, didn't waste time. Mr. Whitmore, she said, before we proceed to custody and final distribution, I want to confirm something for the record. Gregory stood. Yes, Your Honor. She looked up. Has your client fully complied with this court's order to disclose all financial holdings? A pause. Gregory glanced at Malcolm, then back. Yes, Your Honor. To the best of our knowledge. The phrasing mattered. The judge noticed immediately. To the best of your knowledge, she repeated slowly. Her eyes shifted to Malcolm. Mr. Brightwell, is that your testimony as well? Malcolm swallowed. Yes, Your Honor. A beat. Then the judge closed the folder. That sound was quiet, but it landed like something final. Interesting, she said. She turned one page, then another, and then she spoke again. Because this court has received supplemental documentation this morning. The room tightened instantly. Gregory's head lifted sharply. Malcolm's expression changed, just slightly. Not panic yet, but recognition of risk. The judge continued. Documents indicating additional financial transfers executed within the last 72 hours. Silence. Gregory's voice was immediate. Your Honor, we were not made aware of any new filings. You weren't supposed to be, she interrupted. That stopped him. She looked at Malcolm now. Mr. Brightwell, would you like to explain why funds totaling approximately $210,000 were moved after this court issued a freeze order? The air left the room. Just like that. Malcolm stood so fast his chair shifted backward. That's not possible, he said immediately. I wouldn't sit down, Judge Okonkwo said. Not louder, just sharper. He sat, slowly this time, like gravity had increased. Gregory leaned in, voice low and urgent. Did you touch anything after the order? Malcolm shook his head fast. No, I swear no. But the judge was already speaking again. The transaction trail identifies origin points linked to your personal device and office network. A pause. And timestamps place those transfers after notification of asset restriction. That was the moment something in Malcolm broke, not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, internally, because now it wasn't about interpretation anymore. It was about sequence, and sequence doesn't lie. Gregory stood again, but slower this time. Your Honor, we request a forensic verification of those timestamps before any conclusion is drawn. The judge cut him off. I've already ordered it. She leaned forward slightly, and it has been confirmed. The word confirmed hit harder than accusation ever could. Across the aisle, Kesha didn't react outwardly, but something inside her tightened. Not triumph, not relief, finality. The judge turned pages once more. then closed the file entirely. Mr. Brightwell, she said, this court has given you multiple opportunities to correct your disclosures. A pause. You did not. Another pause. And now, you have allegedly violated a direct court order. The courtroom went still in a way that felt almost physical. The judge continued. Effective immediately, I am extending the asset freeze to include punitive enforcement provisions. All financial authority is suspended pending criminal referral review. A murmur tried to rise, but died instantly under her gaze. Then she added something quieter. Additionally, I am referring this matter to the State Bar for immediate ethics investigation regarding billing irregularities and financial misconduct. Malcolm finally spoke, voice strained. Your Honor, please. This is being taken out of context. No, she said. Just one word. Enough to end it. She looked directly at him. This is the context. Silence again. Then she turned slightly toward Kesha. Mrs. Brightwell. Kesha stood. Yes, Your Honor. The judge's expression softened just slightly, not emotional, but acknowledging. This court finds sufficient grounds to award you primary custody, with supervised visitation rights for Mr. Brightwell, pending further review. A pause. An equitable distribution will reflect documented concealment and misconduct. That was it. Not dramatic. Not theatrical. Just institutional. Final. Kesha nodded once. Thank you, Your Honor. She sat back down. Malcolm didn't speak anymore. Not because he had nothing to say. Because there was nothing left that would matter. The gavel came down. Once. Clean. Decisive. Outside, the courthouse exploded. Reporters shouted over each other. Camera flashes hit like bursts of white noise. But Kesha didn't stop. She walked forward through it all. Not fast, not slow, just forward. Marcus and Victoria flanked her instinctively, forming a quiet barrier between her and the storm of questions. A reporter shouted, "Was it worth it?" Another, "Do you feel vindicated?" Kesha stopped briefly. Not for the cameras. Not for the noise. Just long enough to speak clearly. "I didn't win anything," she said. A pause. I stood my ground. Then she continued walking. Behind her, in a quieter part of the courthouse, Malcolm Brightwell remained seated long after everyone had left. Gregory was gone. His mother was gone. Even the reporters had moved on. But he didn't move. Because for the first time, there was no argument left to build. No explanation left to offer. No version of events where he still controlled the ending. Only the realization that what he had once dismissed as just a divorce had quietly become something far larger and irreversible. Hours later, Kesha sat in her car alone, the engine off, hands resting lightly on the wheel. No calls, no noise, just stillness. Her phone lit up once. A message from Amara. Asterisk Mom. I think I understand now. Asterisk Kesha stared at it for a long time, then replied, Asterisk good. Understanding is where healing starts. Asterisk, she put the phone down, looked ahead, and finally allowed herself to breathe, not like someone who had won, but like someone who had finished something that cost more than she expected. Outside, the city kept moving, as if nothing had changed. But for Kesha Brightwell, everything already had, here's a tightened, more cinematic rewrite of your ending with stronger pacing, emotion, and a final hook while keeping your structure and length intact. Kesha dressed carefully in her best suit, the navy one she had bought for her first day at Harmon and Reed. She stood in front of the mirror for a moment longer than usual, not because she doubted herself, but because she finally recognized who she had become. A successful attorney, a mother, a survivor. You've got this, she said quietly to her reflection. And for the first time, she fully believed it. The courthouse was quieter this time. No chaotic crowd, no press swarm, just tension that lingered in smaller, sharper ways. Kesha walked in with steady steps, flanked by her legal team. Her mother and sister were already seated in the gallery, watching her like she was something precious that had finally been returned. Moments later, Malcolm arrived, but he didn't look like the man from before. The confidence was gone. His suit still carried its price tag, but not its power. It hung differently now, like it belonged to someone trying to hold themselves together. His eyes were hollow, tired, empty in a way money couldn't fix. Gregory walked beside him, professional as always, but colder now. detached, like he was no longer defending a client, just managing an outcome. Then Judge Okonkwo entered. No delay, no ceremony. Let's proceed, she said. I have reviewed all submissions, she continued. Financial disclosures, forensic findings, and character evidence presented by both parties. She paused just long enough to make the room tighten. I'm ready to rule. Silence collapsed across the courtroom. Kesha's heart beat hard, but steady. Custody first, the judge said. A pause. Joint legal custody is granted. Physical custody will be awarded 60/40ths in favor of Mrs. Brightwell. Kesha didn't move, but something inside her exhaled. The children will reside primarily with their mother. Mr. Brightwell will have alternate weekends and one weekday evening per week. Behind her, Malcolm's expression broke. Not loudly, just quietly, like something inside him had given up. His mother covered her mouth, shaking. Gregory didn't react at all. Next, Judge Okonkwo continued. Division of assets. The room held its breath again. Due to deliberate concealment of marital property, Mrs. Brightwell is awarded 65% of all community assets. A pause. This includes the marital home, retirement accounts, investment portfolios, and all funds identified through forensic audit. Gregory shifted slightly, but said nothing. The judge didn't stop. Spousal support is set at $4,000 monthly for 5 years, plus child support per state guidelines. Another pause, and Mr. Brightwell will assume all marital debt. Now, she looked directly at him. Mr. Brightwell, you attempted to diminish your wife. You attempted to control her through financial and emotional restriction. Her voice stayed level, but she rebuilt herself anyway. A beat. And in doing so, exposed everything you try to hide. Silence again, the kind that doesn't echo. It lands. Let this be a lesson, the judge said. When you try to destroy someone, you must be certain they don't come back stronger. She raised the gavel. This court is adjourned. The strike echoed through the courtroom like a final heartbeat. Then stillness. It was over. Kesha didn't cry at first. She just sat there, processing. Then it came, slowly, quietly. Not collapse. Release. Tears that didn't feel like pain. They felt like weight leaving her body. Marcus gently squeezed her shoulder. Victoria smiled, just once small but real. In the gallery, her mother and sister rushed down and embraced her tightly, like they were afraid she might disappear again if they let go too soon. Across the room, Malcolm stood. No one stopped him. No one needed to. He walked out without looking back. Gregory followed moments later, already on his phone, already shifting into cleanup mode for a career that now had cracks in it too. Outside, sunlight hit Kesha's face like something new. Warm, unfamiliar. She stood still for a moment, breathing it in. Her phone kept buzzing. Messages, congratulations, voices from a life she had rebuilt piece by piece. But one message mattered more than the rest. Amara, * Dad told us. We'll be staying with you most of the time. I'm glad, Mom. I missed you. * Kesha pressed her fingers to her lips for a second, then smiled through tears. She had won custody. She had won assets. But more than that, she had won something deeper. Proof that she was never what he said she was. Never small, never nothing. Just unrecognized strength until now. As she walked to her car, she thought back to that first courtroom moment. Malcolm laughing, the dismissal, the arrogance, and then Judge Okonkwo's voice, for words that had quietly shifted everything. You already did understand. Because she had. Even when no one else saw it. She had understood her worth long before anyone else admitted it. And that understanding had been the one thing no court, no man, no loss could take away. Kesha drove home slowly. Not to a defeat, not to an ending, but to the beginning of something she had earned the hard way. Freedom. And if there was one truth left standing after everything, it was this: you don't lose yourself when someone underestimates you. You just find out how much stronger you already were.